everyone, and welcome to the thru Recovery Life podcast. Today we have Miss Darragh in Connecticut sharing her experience, strength, and hope with us, and here to tell us what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. So without further ado, I give you Miss Darragh. Right, all yours, Darragh.
Thanks, John. Hi, I am Darragh and I am an alcoholic. I'm also an addict, but today my story will be about how alcohol brought me to my knees. So I was actually born into a long line of alcoholics. And my parents actually met in AA in the 70s. My mother has 46 years of sobriety, and my older brother is also 20 years sober today. My dad has since passed away, but so I didn't grow up in a household, seeing my parents drink. However, there was plenty of other dysfunction. My brother did start drinking as a teenager, and, we are 6 years apart. So when I was about 7, my father left. He was mentally ill and just say he abandoned the family. And that was incredibly hard on my brother, who was 11 or so at the time. So I did witness my brother's drinking for several years as a child. There were a lot of screaming matches, a lot of police coming to the house. So I have significant trauma from those years. And with this program, I'm still learning about it today. So anyway, I actually, my first drink was as an infant. I had a really terrible ear infection. My mom was probably 10 years sober at this point, probably longer. But I had a really bad ear infection. I was screaming and throwing and kicking things. I was maybe a year old. She didn't know what to do. She called a hotline in the middle of the night. The woman told her to pour some vodka in my ear. We didn't have alcohol in the house. So my mom went to the closest neighbor who she knew would have some booze. And, when the alcohol didn't go into the ear, it just poured out of my ear. And my mom said, whatever. And I just gave me a little bit and it knocked me out. Good Irish mother. So that's one of my first memories, actually. I remember the horrible, horrible taste. And she has this fear still to this day that somehow triggered my allergy. I mean, I believe it would have happened either way. I didn't really drink again until I was 15 years old. Again, it was vodka, and I hated the taste. I remembered the taste, but I fell in love with the feeling. And I blacked out, which was the pattern for the next several years, in high school. I snuck out a lot. I loved to rebel. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school. So when the weekends came around, riding around in cars with boys and drinking and drugging was something I really looked forward to. And, I grew up in Alateen, and I went to an Alateen meeting after several years of being an Alateen, never sharing, and having, after I picked up a drink as a teenager, I remember sharing that I had a horrible blackout experience, and the Alateen sponsor firmly said to me, this is not an AA meeting. And it hit me, it hurt me. But he was right. So that was, again, the blackouts, the falling down the stairs, just appalling behavior for the next several years. My dad did eventually come back into my life, and we started to repair our relationship. By this time, I was 21 years old. He was very sick. He had spent 40 years smoking cigarettes and maybe intermittently drinking. But anyway, he had called me. He'd been sick for a long time. He called me as his health was declining and said that I should come visit him. Of course, I was in front of a package store about to go to a party with some friends. And, I had no idea why he was asking me to come, but he did pass away the next day. I was very traumatized by that experience, a lot of unresolved trauma and emotions. He did try to reach out to me about my drinking in the years before he died. He gave me a copy of As Bill Sees It, and I didn't find that until years later, but I'll get to that. So that I started to drink, believe it or not, even more than I had already been in my teenage years. Fell into a very woe is me period in my life. I did geographics. I went to California for a little while and then came back to Connecticut, where I got arrested for the first time just a few months after that, returning to Connecticut. So I did go to college. I managed to complete college. Of course I did the classic controlled drinking. I tried AA several times in those years, never stayed. But the controlled drinking, I was suffering the entire time. Little did I know that my disease was going to progress even more. After college, I moved to New York City and followed my dreams into the entertainment industry. Got my dream job, which was not a good mix for an already problem drinker, where there were opening night parties to go to and everyone meets for drinks after work and everybody is probably an alcoholic, but, not everybody, but I found people who could drink like me. And I always did that, because I knew there was something wrong with me. I knew that, coming to work late when everybody else was showing up on time every single day, because they weren't hungover and I was not normal. So I eventually lost that job after 2.5 years. I had a boss that was a bully. That's sort of how it was in that industry in the time, or still kind of is. But, and I blamed her for a lot of that. Of course, my drinking picked up. That's all of the things I said. Not recognizing that I had lost that job, because of my actions. After I lost that job, I started to drink morning, noon, and night. I made friends with lots of bartenders. I was a night crawler. I used bartenders. I did all of it, the stealing, the lying, and the cheating. Never could pay my rent on time. And my mom was enabling me throughout all of this. I had a great experience in New York, but at the same time, my alcoholism was going to follow me wherever I went. I embarrassed myself countless times in front of fancy people, normal people, and all I did was, the next morning I'd wake up with the anxiety and the fear, and the pain of whatever I did the night before. And of course, by this point I'd learned that if you just drink first thing in the morning, it'll all go away, right? Until the next day. So I was unemployed for quite a while. I met my husband in New York, who my now husband, who is a normie, but, drank when I drank like I drank. But he does not have this disease. So I spent a lot of his money, our money, on my disease. And, but he stayed with me. And, after we got married, we moved down to Miami, Florida to take care of my father-in-law, who was in his late 90s. Again, my alcoholism followed me. At that point, aside from drinking daily, I was stealing money from my mom's purse. And, to move to Miami, like right away, more than stealing the money from the purse, all of the tornado that I created, I just picked up and went down to Miami for, no problem, new start. same thing all over again. I had to do everything drunk. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment with my father-in-law for a year and a half, took him to chemotherapy every week. And, he has since passed away, not from cancer. Actually, he fell and hit his head. And the morning that he fell and hit his head, we were drunk. I was drunk. And that day is a blur. But it was very traumatic for both of us, and the blame and the shame, got worse. So I was basically, after he had passed away, I had been working, teaching acting lessons for children at a theater, was drinking, throughout that job, until one day, I was teaching a group of kids drunk, and my boss pulled me out of the class, confronted me. Of course, I tried to deny it. So that was that. Again, I didn't know those people very well. That's Miami. I'm not from here. I'll just sweep it under the rug. And I continued to drink after that, hiding the shame from hiding the truth from myself. Shortly after that, I had my first seizure. So I was so sick at that time. I really had no idea that I could have seizures from alcohol withdrawal. So that was my first seizure. I had 8 throughout the next year, between 2018 and 2019. So I was in and out of hospitals, obviously still drinking. Eventually, my mom stepped in, and my husband and I did move back to Connecticut, where I entered treatment for the first time. And was still having seizures back up here in Connecticut. I entered detox and treatment, fell into a rehab romance that was a disaster. Did not treat that opportunity to get well. Over the next 2 years, I was in and out of detox, in and out of AA. I was so spiritually sick, physically sick, crawling on my knees. I knew what to do. I knew AA was there. But I was showing up at meetings drunk, and, it was fear, absolutely, totally fear. So then in 2020, COVID hit, perfect opportunity for me to continue to self-isolate inside my house and drink, until I got my first DUI at 33 years old. It was 10 o'clock in the morning, and I had a head-on collision with another driver, and it was a big display of me in a blackout, waking up the next day with bruises because of my altercation with the police. So pretty horrific. And, you would think that would be the last time. But I continued to drink after that, and continued to step in and out of AA. I kept coming back to the meetings. Yes, I may have done a Zoom meeting here or there drunk, but I kept coming back until I stopped coming back drunk. I found myself one day in my local church, all by myself, praying, crying, begging to a higher power, to God. My higher power is, I choose to call God, for him to take this away from me. I couldn't stop. I wanted to kill myself. I wanted to die. I don't know if I would have, but I had crossed over this, what we call the invisible line, and there truly was no coming back for me at that point without some kind of intervention of a power that was greater than myself. And in this church, as I'm begging for forgiveness, trying to make amends to anything that was out there, I felt this wave, this strange wave of energy. I don't know how to explain it, but it came through me through my left side and it went out through the right. And I was dumbfounded. And that was really the first time that I felt like something heard me, someone heard me, and just, I don't know, gave me a little hug or a little nudge. But it was powerful enough to where I started to talk about it in meetings, and my obsession to drink was eventually lifted, which I still can't explain, but I don't want to question too much. So I have been sober since November 4th, 2021. It was, this, again, not my first time trying to commit myself to this program, but I kept coming back. I stopped talking as much this time around. I started to listen. I implemented AA into my daily routine, morning prayer into my daily routine, trying to have some gratitude multiple times a day. When my disease comes calling, or not, taps on my shoulder, or just plain old the human condition, because, life goes on, but in my experience, my life has gotten significantly better. I believe that my higher power intervened in this as well. I'm currently in grad school, which allows me to give back to others. I've met people in my school program who are in the program, and it's all just been a really incredible journey that I pray that I'm still in awe of years from now, but it is only a day at a time. Taking this program and my sobriety 1 minute at a time, 1 day at a time, has worked. Because when I tried to put years ahead of myself, as many of you know, that doesn't work. It puts you into despair. It's expectations, and expectations lead to resentments. And I already have a lot of resentments that I'm working through. Still, that I don't want to keep compiling, especially onto myself. The past is in the past. I still am working on forgiving myself and loving myself. But the people in AA have helped me to love myself because they love me first. I feel so I don't have to isolate anymore. I'm not alone in this anymore. I feel like being a part of AA is like being a part of a special tribe of people from all over the world who are survivors. We've been through some crazy things and have done some horrible things, some crazy things, but also I believe alcoholics are incredibly loving, creative, sensitive, intelligent human beings. And I am very grateful and honored to be an alcoholic today. So that is that. I will keep coming back. And John, thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share.
Fantastic. Thank you, Darragh. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Oh, you too, John. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful.